With the match against Nigeria finally concluding with BLUELOCK as the champion, the next match in the U20 World Cup is about to begin. BLUELOCK's next challenge, the match against France, is soon to take place, but what plan does Ego have to take down Loki and Charles? Well, in today's video, I'll be going through my predictions, formation, and strategies for how I believe BLUELOCK will proceed into the match against France. This video will simply be my own theory and predictions made in hindsight, so if I happen to be inevitably wrong, then I'm wrong. Nothing I can do. Like always though, spoilers for the match and events of the Nigeria game, and if you wish to not be spoiled for that match, I would suggest clicking off this video now if you wish to not be spoiled. To start, let's theorize how France could potentially play going into the match against BLUELOCK. Thankfully, unlike Nigeria, Ego gave us a small description of what France as a country is like, but we also might have an idea as to what kind of players that France might have. Based on the NEL description, France is known for ranking in a lot of money due to their surprisingly strong upstart players. While most stratums had a philosophy like Germany or Italy, France just seems to highlight that they have a lot of strong individuals on their team or from their country. And with players like Loki and Charles, along with characters like Shido who went to France during the NEL, we can kind of confirm this. That's not even including a potential new generation 11 who could be on France's team. As I'm making this video, I'm not sure if they have one, but they might. Overall, France just seems to be dominating the current world of soccer, sporting players with unique talents that surpass others. As for the strategy I could see BLUELOCK embodying in this next game, I believe that the mentality will be something similar to the Nigeria game. I could describe Nigeria's match as having a dynamic of offense versus offense when it came to the clashing of their styles. And I believe that the next match will highlight something similar. The original message behind BLUELOCK going into the Japan U20 game so long ago was simply outscoring your opponent. Ego described it as being a mentality of, if your opponent scores 5 goals, you will win by scoring 6. And going into the match against Loki, I don't think that the current BLUELOCK will be able to stop him, but what they could potentially do is outscore him. With players like Rain, Isagi, Shido, and Bado, but also Chigiri, Bachara, and Ryo as potential goal scorers on the front line, I think their combined power is definitely enough to compete against Loki and Charles' deadliness. However, I think narratively this game will have an ulterior purpose. In universe, I don't think Ego would design a formation going into the game expecting to lose, especially given Isagi's dissatisfaction, which surpasses his own ideals in the previous match. But narratively, I think BLUELOCK will lose, but this specific match will be used to determine Loki's weakness. Now, I have my own theories and predictions as to what Loki's weakness is. If you want to see a video on that, let me know and I'll probably cover it. But I do think that this match will be used to expose this weakness of Loki and extort that going into their rematch in the knockouts. As for their formation, I could see BLUELOCK running a 4-4-2 formation, having 2 center backs, 2 fullbacks, 2 defensive midfielders, 2 offensive midfielders, and 2 center forwards. I think that this formation is definitely the most solid, assuming that narratively BLUELOCK is trying to figure out Loki's weakness here, and the setup for this formation also allows them to outscore Loki if that's Ego's intention. Now, because I'm not 100% sure if France is going to have a new generation 11, or if they do have one, what their position or style will be like, I won't be factoring them into this prediction. Basically, this video and this formation is made under the assumption that the only real threats on the France team are Loki and Charles. Starting with our backline being our goalkeeper, there is only one obvious pick, that being Gagamaru. Gagamaru is clearly the obvious choice, especially when our only other option is Fukaku, whose best feat is blocking a U20 rain and barely doing so in the process. With Gagamaru's latest training by Ego revealed, we see that Gagamaru learned how to improve his reaction time, not simply moving off of instinct, but fully understanding what it means to be a good goalkeeper. This let him easily block Onazi's shot for the final play of the first half of the Nigeria game. So really, there is just no other option. Going into my center backs on the right side, I'm going to be taking Oliver Aiku. It's no surprise that Aiku is on the starting lineup, not simply because he is our captain, but also because he is the best defender on the BLUELOCK team, except for Yoichi Isagi, of course. From Aiku's training, we see that he is not only more aware of his metavision and is using it almost as consistently as Isagi is, but also that his training from Ego netted him a brand new ability, a defensive technique to snuff out awakenings. We don't fully know the scope of this technique, however we did see him use this ability to press and shut down Onazi's awakening while he was in flow. Potentially Aiku could use this against Loki or Charles, or really any player who could potentially undergo some kind of style transformation or awakening, but just given the fact that Aiku is the best defender that Blue Lock has, not playing him seems kind of like a waste. As for my other center back alongside Aiku, I'm actually taking Iki Nico. Given the overwhelming physical ability of Loki, I feel like the best strategy for Blue Lock here would be to simply predict and stall him as opposed to try and match up with him in relation to physical talent. Because of this, I would throw Nico on the back line here because of his incredible spatial awareness when it relates to reading passes. During the U20 game, Nico excelled in reading size passes, using his spatial awareness to stop both Sendo and Shido from a direct goal using his eyes. While his block to Shido was a foul, he was simply limited by his own physical ability at the time. But thanks to his training by Ego, Nico's strength has vastly improved in relation to his previous self. Plus, with his understanding and utilization of metavision, Nico's ability to read the field has gotten even better. In this role, I would say that Nico would be used to read the passing trajectory and passing plays from Charles to Loki. But because this is Nico, I really don't expect him to be able to stop Loki if he's able to read the pass. Instead, I expect Nico to try and trap Loki. I think at least one time during this game or in the rematch, Nico will offside trap Loki, reading Charles's pass and Loki's running routes to do so. This would give Blue Lock the chance they need to initiate a counterattack and potentially score a goal. Even if that doesn't work though, which I don't expect it to work 100% of the time, they at least have some kind of idea as to try and trap Loki and, limit him from scoring more often. Going into my fullbacks, on the left side, we have my favorite character, Chigiri Hyoma. I feel like playing Chigiri in the game against the current fastest character in the series is a no-brainer. If you're facing a speedster, the only logic is to play your own to counter as best as possible. Now, in the game against Nigeria, despite Chigiri's training in the NEL, Ego placed Chigiri on the right side as a crosser. That will not be happening in this game. If our idea is to score as many goals as possible, having Chigiri on his ideal side to do so is the best possible option. And on this side, he can link up with two characters who he has high compatibility with, who I will reveal later in this video when going through the formation. On the right side though, we have another obvious pick that a lot of people like to put into their formations, that being Tsurugi Zantetsu. For a similar argument to Chigiri, playing a speedster character is the only rational option in a match against the fastest player in the series. But I mostly have Zantetsu here for the same purpose that I have for Chigiri. When you really look at it in relation to styles, Zantetsu is essentially just a mirror of Chigiri. Zantetsu has his own golden zone on the right side, which he extorts with his left foot, while Chigiri is on the left side, which he extorts with his right. Putting these two ideal sprinters on their perfect sides would lead to goals being scored more frequently because they're able to score from their ideal golden zones. Now, I know it's a little crazy, but a Zantetsu goal could possibly happen. But I also have Zantetsu and Chigiri on the pitch together for their chemical reaction in the second selection. We saw how incredibly deadly this duo was with their speedster chemical reaction, blitzing Karasu, Otoya, Kiora, and Aiki with ease. The only issue with this full speed chemical reaction is the fact that they have to sprint constantly, and that would burn a lot of stamina. But with Ego's training for Chigiri to build up his stamina, lungs, and heart strength, this issue is just kinda gone. And assuming that Loki gets stopped by Aiku or Nico, this is Blue Lock's easiest chance for a counterattack and an easy goal, using a double speedster chemical reaction to do it. Going into my two defensive midfielders, I can kind of bring them both up at the same time because they have similar roles in what they'll be doing. For the first one, we have Karasu Tabito, and for the second, we have Yo Hiyori. Now, in this formation, I'm going to have Karasu on the left and Hiyori on the right, but despite these two characters having vastly different styles overall, they're going to be performing the exact same role in this game. Their job is to stop Charles. Out of anyone on the Blue Lock team, these two players are the best for predicting and stopping Charles. During the PXG game, Karasu was the main player who worked with Charles to feed balls to him and passes to him for attacking plays to be set up, and they also linked up and worked together to stop Kaiser and Isagi's combo assault in chapter 286. As for Hiyori, he is the only player on an opposing team to be able to read and predict Charles, as we see with him blocking Charles's 1% pass to Shido in chapter 256. So when it comes to their role and their job, they are going going to be used to essentially limit or just stop Charles from making passes. But assuming any passes do get by from their press and does reach Loki, it will at least be a little bit more predictable for our backline in Aiku and Nico. Both of these players also have Metavision now, so having two Metavision users double teaming Charles, these same players being the most knowledgeable about how he likes to play, yeah, I think they could definitely shut him down. As for the reasoning of their respective positions, I have Karasu on the left because of his great compatibility with Chigiri. Karasu and Chigiri have always been a solid duo, as we see their link-ups in the third selection, and in the U20 game were very effective. Even their recent link-up in the Nigeria game is what led to a goal by Bachira. As for Hiyori, I have him on the right side to coordinate with the players on the upper line, since I think that he would work best for them, and I'll reveal who they are later in this video. Plus, his passing ability is definitely something that could actually get used in this match, since he really didn't get to do much of that during the Nigeria game. But also, Hiyori is just naturally better on the right side. He was on the right side during the U20 game against the former Japan U20 team, and in the NEL in both the Ubers and PXG matches. Why Ego decided to play Hiyori and Chigiri in positions opposite to what they are used to or play best in, I have no idea. So I would just fix that here. As for our offensive midfielders on the right side, we have our main character, Yoichi Isagi. I don't want to hear any of the midfielder Sagi agenda being pushed, but for this game, Isagi should be in the midfield. My idea for Isagi this game would be to give him a role and result similar to the Nigeria game, where he was working as an axis of the blue lock formation's attacking patterns. Plus, I have two other characters that I want in my striker position, and they don't really do well in any other kind of position, so that's why I'm putting Isagi in the midfield, because he works best in the midfield and center forward, while these other picks work best in just center forward. Isagi's vision is of the highest quality in blue lock, so having him in the midfielder position gives him the best chance for him to extort the pitch to his own advantage. Not to mention, we get more Isagi defensive plays without him always having to trail back and weakening our offensive line. Plus, with Isagi on the right side, it gives him the best opportunity to work with Hiyori, since Isagi and him have been shown to have some great compatibility in previous matches. Again, I don't know what the fuck happened in the Nigeria game, but I hope that this formation can kind of fix that issue. As for my other offensive midfielder, I would be taking Mikage Reo. Reo's performance in the Nigeria game was solid, as if you saw my ranking video from that game, I gave him an A tier rating, with him being the highest A tier player of the game. Reo's ability to copy anyone on the top 23 is incredibly useful for both offensive and defensive plays. If he wanted to copy Bachira again for a double Bachira formation, he can do that. If he wanted to copy Aiku for some more defensive pressure, he could do that. If he wanted to copy Nagi so that way some Nagi fans can get a few crumbs from this game and be happy in some capacity, he can do that. Plus, with his capability to use Metavision, having him in the midfield alongside Isagi is a great thing, since they can both scan and predict the field like they did against Nigeria. I feel like the midfielder combo of Ryo and Isagi works so well against the Nigerian team that having them against the France team is just the best possible option here. Now, as for my first two strikers, one of them should be fairly obvious, that being Rin Itoshi on the right side. Is there really any reason to not pick Rin here? Rin is the strongest player in the Blue Lock project, and is easily its strongest striker and goal scorer. With Rin's newest skill in controlling his flow state, or his beast mode as it's now called, Rin can tap into his greatest techniques while not holding anything back. Rin can enter this state without the needed pressure of Sai or Isagi to do that, and he can even cannibalize Isagi to score his own goals, like he did with his rotating gear shot against Nigeria. Not to mention, he has a controlled understanding and usage of Predator Eye, which puts him figuratively the same as Burū in terms of this vision ability's usage. But the biggest reason to play Rin here comes from a chapter early on in the U20 World Cup arc. During an interview with BLUELOCK, a reporter asked if the world was going to see a match of Rin Itoshi and Julian Loki, and I really can't see any kind of reason as to why Ego, or I guess Kaneshiro and Nomura in this instance, would refuse to play Rin against France given this interaction. So for all the obvious reasons, Rin is being played as one of my center forward strikers on the right side. But then who's on our left? Well, that's everyone's favorite pervert striker, that being Shida Ryusei. Shida is probably one of the best strikers for this game, just in the mindset of Ego going into this game. Shido narratively, whenever he is on the pitch, is always the first player to score a goal. Whether it's the third selection, or the U20 game after being subbed on, or in the PXG game, Shido is typically the first one to score a goal whenever he is on the pitch. And against Loki and Charles, the strongest duo in Blue Lock, they're gonna need a goal very fast. With players like Karasu and Zantetsu on the pitch, two players who worked with Shido during PXG, he at least has some familiar support. But he also has the combined passing ability of Hiyori and Ryo, giving Shido the most amount of freedom possible to score goals as quickly as possible. I think in this next game, Shido is the most likely to score a goal, more so than Rain, Isagi, Ryo, or really anyone else on the pitch. And I think having him score against France, more specifically Charles, would be great since he and Charles were such good buddies during the NEL. But with my lineup fully complete, let's go over the players that I could see being brought in as substitutions or just overall alterations to the starting lineup that I could predict happening. Starting in the back line, I could see Audio taking the place of Nico as a center back. If we are running two center backs, I could totally understand Kaneshiro's decision in wanting to play Audio. His mirror defensive technique that he gained from Judo is definitely a useful ability to limit the movements of an opponent, plus his long reach and range with his limbs and jumping are definitely a threat. However, I don't think that Audio's Judo technique is going to be useful against Loki, assuming that Loki is the only main attacker in France's lineup. I would much rather have Nico, who is vastly more analytical and could potentially offside trap Loki if needed. Another sub I could see being played in this game is Corona being subbed in for Zantetsu as my right wing back. Corona's speed is on par with the top tiers of the Blue Lock project, and with his last minute save against Nigeria, we see how useful he can be in those clutch moments. Putting him on the pitch in place of Zantetsu wouldn't be that big of a hindrance, since Corona definitely has the speed to replace him and play a similar role to him in the lineup. Plus, with him on the right side, Corona could link up with Isagi for a quick counterattack using Planet Hotline. Either through Isagi himself or just a quick pass to Rain or Shido, an easy goal is definitely possible for Blue Lock with Corona in the starting lineup. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering, why am I not starting Bachara after his incredible performance against Nigeria? Well, it's funny you mention him because Bachara is another one of my subs. It's no surprise or shock to say that Bachara was the man of the match during the Nigeria game. So for what reason am I not playing him here? Well, I just don't think that Bachara's dribbling is going to be the best weapon against France, especially given Loki's speed. Now, I'm not saying Bachara is slow by any means, but I would much rather give the dribbling handle over to Chigiri or Terrell, someone who is fast or can easily copy and convert the play to whatever is needed. I could really see Bachara getting the ball taken from him by Charles or Loki fairly easily over the course of the game, and I wouldn't really want him as a starter as opposed to a different character. I'm not saying that he couldn't start, since I could totally understand starting Bachara because of his performance in the last match, at which point I would probably swap him in for Ryo, putting him as a left midfielder on the front line in the exact same position he was in during the last game. And it would also be kind of interesting to see how Shido and Bachara would interact together as a duo, since their mentalities for scoring goals as freedom geniuses are very similar. As for my last substitution, that belongs to Baro Shoei, who I would see subbing in for either Rin Itoshi or Shida Ryusei. Baro's greatest strength would be his ability to thrive in restriction and disrupt the current flow of a game. At the later stages of the game, I could see Baro being brought onto the pitch in place of Shido once his goal-scoring abilities are limited and fail to produce any kind of results, while at the same time, I could see Baro being subbed in for Rin. That way we could have a double Joker duo on the front line in Shido and Baro. I know a lot of people are huge fans of this ideal, and I do think it has some potential here. Plus, with Isagi on the right side, it gives Baro a closer interaction to him as players, and they could potentially cannibalize each other for a goal if needed. And with that, this is my prediction, formation, and strategy that I believe Blue Lock will use going into the match against France. Now, as for my final formation, I have Gagamaru in goalkeeper with Aiku and Nico as my center backs. I have Chigiri and Zantetsu as my fullback, with Chigiri on the left side and Zantetsu on the right side, with Karasu and Hiyori as my defensive midfielders, with Karasu on the left and Hiyori on the right. For my offensive midfielders, I have Ryo on the left and Isagi on the right, and for my strikers, I have Shido on the left and Rain on my right. As for possible substitutions or overall alterations for this lineup, I have Audio swapping in for Nico, I have Corona swapping in for Zantetsu, I have Bachara swapping in for Ryo, and I have Baro swapping in for either Shido or Rain. With Loki, Charles, and a potential new generation 11 on the France team, they're going to be posing a huge threat to Blue Lock. But with this strategy, I think that they definitely have a chance of performing performing at a relative level to them. But aside from that though, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. I just wanted to leave a final reminder to join my Discord server if you're ever interested in getting any more involved with our amazing community. As for the question of the video, what is your starting formation for Blue Lock versus France? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you all so much for watching. Like and subscribe to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this.